You're listening to
They're going to call it a hard foul. They're going to call it a hard foul.
offering in-depth analysis on all things Boston Celtics with your hosts, Jim and Mike Quigley.
Down goes Bam. Down goes that cult of Heat culture. Celtics move on to the next round with a 4-1 victory over the Miami Heat. Welcome to the next episode of It's a Hard Foul with Jim Quigley and Mike Quigley. Excited to be here to talk about the Celtics and their blowout victory at home over the Miami Heat and that dirty, dirty player, Bam Adebayo. His season is over. Thank God. I don't think there's a player in the NBA, Jim, that I hate more than Bam Adebayo. And I can't stand the way he gets away with everything. So it was a pleasure seeing him go down, not playing very good against Luke Kornet at all. It was great to see our guy Luke shut him down in the second half. So as frustrating as game 2 was, the last 2 games have been refreshing, and I'm ready to move on to Orlando or Cleveland, depending on how that series ends up, Jim. I'm happy to be done with this Miami Heat team.
Yeah, you say there's no one you hate more. Where do you get Orlando Magic and Mo Wagner for a 7-game series? I'd like to revisit who you would hate the most. Yes, I got a feeling this might change. Huh?
He had a good season, Mo. He had a really good year with Orlando coming off the bench, which I was surprised.
But he's a certifiable cheap shot artist.
He is also that. I don't think his brother is, though.
Oh, yeah, he is. His brother takes liberties as well. Yeah, they're both pretty bad. You know, Mo's worse than him, but Franz, yeah, he little extracurricular action happens there as well.
What about the rest of the team? Is like Pablo? I don't think
the rest of the team's just physical. You know,
just physical.
You know, the thing about Miami being physical is they're not physically imposing.
Orlando is
physically imposing. They're big, they're strong, they're fast, and they play physical, and they will try to weigh you down. And
they're pretty limited offensively, though.
Very limited outside of Pablo
and Franz.
They really don't have much going on. You know, but they're big and they're long. I mean, you have him, you have Jonathan Isaac, you have Fultz, you have,
their guards defend. Gary Harris defends. Suggs defends. They get up in here.
Harris doesn't deserve to be on any playoff basketball floor, but he does defend. He's terrible offensively. And Carter Jr. obviously at center, and Kristaps they got big physical guys that will go after you.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was good to see, Mike. I was glad to see them take the next 3 games in a fashion that really was not all that competitive. Anytime Miami showed any fight or looked like there was going to be reason to believe the Heat could, make it a game or come back, the Celtics shut it down. And I thought that was really encouraging. Yeah, I thought that they did what they were supposed to do. And you can talk about game 2, what went wrong there, but in reality, it took the best shooting performance in Miami Heat history, playoff history, to beat the Celtics and to force it to go 5. And I thought it would go 5. I thought something fluky like that would happen in one of the games, and it did. And beyond that, I don't think Miami led in the series other than game 2. Or if they did, it was for a very, very short while early in the game somewhere. So it was just a dominant ass kicking on the whole, And
it was embarrassing if you're Tyler Herro.
Oh, we can talk about that. Yeah. You can see why he wasn't traded.
And there was something that went viral from the offseason, Dan Levitar on his show saying the Philadelphia 76ers can't compete with the Miami Heat's offer for Damian Lillard because Tyler Herro is so much better than Tyrese Maxey. Fantasy Island with the way people believe in that guy. And, that what the Celtics did to him in the, second and third quarter was it was so obvious they were going after him with anybody he was covering. It didn't matter. He couldn't defend anyone. He had to push people and just take fouls, even when his team was in the bonus. That's a player that Miami I believe would love to get out of that contract. I think what Scal said made a lot of sense. Herro just doesn't fit into what they do, and even on the offensive end, he's really hit or miss. Like
where does he fit in?
if he's not hitting his shot, like he gives you absolutely nothing.
I don't know where he fits in on a team with that contract league wide. Like it's such
with that contract,
amount for what he gives you. Like there was a lot of talk, and it was Scal brought it up a bunch how the Celtics were attacking matchups to their detriment in game 2. I just thought.
Well, let me ask you a question though, because I know he doesn't. That contract sucks, but like, what if Miami does call Phoenix and they're like, yeah, you got to take Tyler Herro, but we're going to give you like 5 first-round draft picks to, we want Kevin Durant. Maybe that's like the only way it could work,
Yeah, so Miami can get another agent superstar and see what's happening. I think.
That's what I mean.
I think Miami's got to go in the other direction. I think if they do that, they're prolonging the painful rebuild that they need to have. Their sailing was beating the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, and that was lucky. Yeah, like
well, that's why
with
I called it
next year. Are you confident Miami gets through a playoffs healthy with Durant and Butler?
Well, that's why I agree with like Michael Hawley that like I thought it was such a good point. He called the Miami Heat franchise like a cult. He was like, they've never won anything, and he goes, they'll be down 3-0 in a series, and they'll come out and talk about how they're going to manifest themselves to win. He goes, they just don't have the talent. And I thought it was really good because you're like saying they probably need a rebuild down the line. I don't think that franchise looks at it that way. I think they keep this team together and try to add more, even if it's an aging veteran.
Well, I don't know how they add more. Like it would have to be an aging veteran that a team's willing to give up. Like they just don't have a lot of. If you're calling on Miami and you want someone from there, there's one player, and it's Bam, and that's a guy they're not going to trade. So there's nothing really else appealing on that roster. Other than the young guys, they have a couple of Jokic there and the kid that didn't play last night. But outside of that, it's just a very, very limited roster with very specific skill sets. There's not many two-way players, and you just saw that. And that was the point I was going to make, that in game 2, there was a lot of talk about Celtics attacking matchups and how it was to their detriment, and they did too much hunting. Looking back, and hindsight's always 20/20. I don't think that was the case. I think it was more of they didn't attack the matchups hard enough. They didn't drive hard. They didn't really seek it out in an aggressive manner, because the playoffs is all about finding matchups that you can kill. And last night was a great example of that. They did a Tyler Herro all game when Kevin Love came in. They put him in 3 straight pick and rolls, got 3 straight 3-pointers, 9-0 run off of Kevin Love pick and rolls. They found Patty Mills
also
he was in.
Al set some really good screens.
Yeah, and so but Kevin Love can't get out on shooters, and he can't really rotate at all. So he's easy to run him against. And I think against Cleveland, that's who the Celtics actually get. You're going to see them attack Garland, and you're going to see them attack Mitchell. And you're going to see it do it all series over and over and over again. And people might get aggravated. And why aren't they moving the ball? Why aren't they moving? It's tough to move the ball in the playoffs. Your sets are scouted. They know what you want to do. That shit gets taken away. And you saw Miami do that quite a bit. They actually did a really good job defensively, I thought, for most of the series, maybe with the exception of last night. And I think that's what you're going to see going forward. And successful teams, playoff teams, are really good at finding these matchups and attacking it. And on the flip, especially without Porizingas, you're going to see Al Horford go into the pick and roll, get put in the pick and roll a bunch, especially against Cleveland. We're trying to get these guards to go one-on-one against him, whether it's Garland or Mitchell. And how the Celtics react to that will be interesting, because Al really struggled with that last year in the playoffs, especially against Atlanta. And again, against Philly when James Harden played without Embiid. So you will see that again. You're absolutely going to see that again. So how the Celtics react as we look forward. It was good to see them, not play with their food in advance, but what happens next is going to be pretty interesting.
I think in the second round, I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like there's a place for Xavier Timlin in both these series.
He moves his feet very, very well. Yep.
Yeah. Especially like I could see maybe Al or Kornet struggling or getting in foul trouble. There'll be a place for him if the Celtics are struggling off that pick and roll. Timlin's the kind of guy you can bring into the game. It's interesting. I think both teams add an element that the Celtics would struggle with. Even without KP, I don't think Cleveland, or I'd be very surprised if Cleveland or Orlando beat the Celtics in the series. I think with Cleveland on the offensive end, something the Celtics might struggle with is the size Cleveland has inside. So driving to the basket and finishing at the hoop is going to be tough. And another thing with this Cleveland series is if you are driving into those bigs and you get into the line, are you going to hit your free throws? Because Cleveland does. Cleveland hits their free throw shots. And you saw against Orlando. Orlando was really struggling in some of these games in Cleveland. They got to the line one of the games over 30 times and only hit like 19 free throws. That's the kind of thing that could hurt the Celtics. But other than that, I think we kill them at the wings. I think our guards can cover and score on their guards. Garland seems to always play well against the Celtics, so I would expect that he does. So does Mitchell offensively.
They have a few guys that play good against the Seas.
Karis LeVert is another guy.
Yeah, Strauss and even Dean Wade.
I do think that Cleveland struggles a lot on the road. So if it goes 7, I think the Celtics win all their home games. Where it's going to be tough in both these series, winning on the road against Orlando and Cleveland is going to be really hard. Celtics went to Orlando this year and got their ass kicked. They went to Cleveland this year and they blew a large lead. They struggled in Cleveland last year. I think a lot of teams struggle in Orlando and in Cleveland. These are teams that play well at home. So the Celtics can't afford to lose at home. I'll say that in the second round. You gotta clean up at home because it's going to be really hard to steal one on the road in the second round. I have
all the faith in the world of the Celtics in the playoffs on the road. I agree those are tough places to play, but they've had success just about everywhere on the road over these last 3 seasons, even in really tough environments. So I just think the Celtics are so much more talented that if they did lose one at home, I would fully expect them to at least split the next 2 on the road. If they don't, it becomes it's almost inexcusable. The Celtics, let's make no bones about this. Even without Porizingas, there's a talent mismatch here, whether it's the Magic or the Cavs, and this should not go beyond 6. Doesn't mean it can't, but it shouldn't. I think the talent gap is it's too great. And
I think with Orlando, I have a hard time seeing it go beyond 5 just because of the inexperience. Maybe I'm wrong, but with Cleveland, I think it's going 7, Jim. I think it's going to be a 7-game series. This is how I feel. I feel like there's going to be times where the Celtics do struggle with that size inside, and that could cost them a game. I think Mitchell could cost you a game just by going off. And the other thing with Cleveland too, it's like I liked the way Tatum played, but I think against Cleveland, he's going to bring it to another level because he's not going to have the same type of defensive game plan that Miami had against him. He's not going to be getting fouled every time he touches the ball. He's not going to be getting double teamed all the time. I think he's going to have more freedom to score. And I think the Celtics are going to need to lean on him a little bit more in this second round.
Yeah, I think for sure without Porizingas. I understand what you say with their size, and they're going to be a lot bigger than the Celtics. I think a lot of that is I think it's very hard to play 2 bigs at once against the Celtics. I just even with Mobley's versatility because of the way the Celtics can spread you out. So it'd be interesting to see how long Cleveland stakes with that. I think that'd be a difficult thing for them to pull off. I also think, a lot of that comes down to whether Al's hitting shots or not. Jared Allen can sit in the paint all he wants, but if Al's just wide open hitting threes, then that becomes a little bit more difficult to do that and play that style. So if Al can hit shots, that should open the floor up for your guards and your wings to attack. And there will always be mismatches on the floor for the Celtics to go after. But you didn't
Can I ask you a question about matchups?
What's one last thing, Mike?
Sorry.
You do bring up a great point because the other thing about the playoffs, the NBA is a 3-point and layup league now, but as we see every year, the mid-range shot does become important in the playoffs. So can the Celtics make a few of those too against those defense? But I understand what you're saying. I'd be very surprised if it went 7.
I hope you're right. I'll be jumping on that. I have a question for you. Although if it does go 7 and they win in 7 and everything's prolonged before they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't know if that helps because you got KP back, but whatever. I know. My question, Jim, is so we both saw the way Kornet played. He just played a little bit the night before, but like last night, we got a really good look at him, especially in the second half where I don't think Bam scored against him. Seeing the way that Kornet defended a guy like Bam, who's good off the dribble too.
Yeah.
If Cleveland goes small and they have Mobley at center, do you feel confident now that you could put Kornet out there to defend him?
I felt
because I feel like I could. And
I felt confident. I felt confident that they could have played Kornet when Porzingis was healthy. The Celtics figured out how to cover Bam. I think somewhere around towards the end of game 2, where with your bigs, with the exception of Al, because you can't do this. There was no reason to body him. You gave him room, then you closed late. And your bigs and Porzingis and Kornet is so long that it really bothered him because it looked like he had an open shot, but they would just close late and they would either be able to deflect the shot again in his line of vision, right? And it was very, very effective. And Kornet did an even better job than Porzingis in that regard, especially last night. But Kornet's a great defensive rebounder. He's a really good rim runner. He protects the paint reasonably well. He's not super at it, but he does it reasonably well. And he doesn't hurt your offense because, he seems to always just be in the right spot, whether it's coming off a screen or be in a position to know to clean up the offensive rebound. How many putback dunks have we seen him have this year? He had a couple last night. And I do think you're right. Against an Evan Mobley, he can be effective. And against a Jared Allen, he could be okay. I don't think he's going to be dominant or anything like that, but he can give you solid minutes. And he helps the offense because he does a good job out of that dunker spot. And he's a good passer from there. So, yeah, I think he's a good player. I thought the Miami series was kind of perfect for him because of how much bigger he was than everyone. This series is going to be a little bit tougher, maybe a lot tougher. But he can be fine. He can be fine. He won't be Porzingis, but he will be fine. He's a good player. He's better than people realize.
I think with this KP injury, I always forget Kornet's contract status. I think he's locked up through next year, but I'm not sure. But if he's not, this could be an opportunity for him to make a jump from $3 million in the offseason to 7 or 8 per year. If he continues to play like he played last night.
Yeah, he's signed for 2 years, so he's locked up next year for just a couple $1 million. So
yeah, that's a sweet deal for the Celtics.
Yeah, no, it really is, and it gives him more time to develop Kata. So maybe he steps into that role if Kornet's offered a contract they don't want to pay. But no, he's been an excellent player. Excellent. I don't mean in terms of talent, he's been excellent for his role.
In his role.
Yeah, and I think he'll be fine. There'll be a night or two where you get frustrated, but he's going to be fine. He really will.
And we talked about this before, but I'm just going to bring it up one more time. The Celtics have developed some of these guys. Kornet was a nobody kind of guy on the roster. Sam Hauser undrafted. Peyton Pritchard. Last year, we all wanted to throw him on a bus to Charlotte. They really do. It's I'm interested to see what Springer is next year. I'm interested to see what Timlin is next year. They do good with these guys. You bring up Kata. And it's made a difference what we really haven't talked about in this series, like I think it was game 3 maybe, where the Celtics were a little struggling, maybe only 21 points in the first quarter. Well, they brought in Pritchard, they brought in Hauser. The defense was incredible when Pritchard was in the game, but on the offensive end, when they were in, the Celtics got a good look for like 5 possessions in a row. So that's important going forward. These guys are going to play a big role. Now Kornet's part of that too. So
yeah, they're professional players, and they come in and they fill their role and they do a good job. And I think they've been vastly underrated by the majority of the league, saying the Celtics bench is their weakness. I don't know. Does Cleveland really have a better bench than the Celtics or the Magic? I'd roll with these guys pretty confidently. And that's why I think it's going to be so tough, right? For Cleveland or Orlando, there's just so much the Celtics have. I just even take the last 2 games of what Derek White did. He had 38, 37 in game 4, came back and he had 16 first half points.
25 for the game, yeah.
25 for the game, yeah. So they can just throw haymakers at you from all different directions. Drew Holiday has really not even gotten going offensively, but defensively, he's been a menace. He's given the Celtics spacing out of that dunker spot. He's playing the foul line against the zone and just killing it that way with just making the right decision after right decision. So they just have so much going on. The biggest concern for me is Al, and I love Al. It's just these loaded up minutes really, really hurt him last year, and he was a shell of himself in the Eastern Conference Finals. You could say that position, the center position, was a net negative in the Eastern Conference Finals, especially after he had a matchup with Embiid. He couldn't make a shot. He was struggling on the glass. So what does this mean for him, and how are they going to manage it? I mean, I love the spot that he was in backing up Porizingas. I thought he just could give them effective energy, and infectious. You saw it last night, in the starting role from him.
Jim,
How does this look extended now? That's my biggest concern for the Celtics.
I think the answer though. Like, yes, we have to extend his minutes, but let's cap it. 30 to 32. And trust that Kornet's going to play well. Trust that Timlin's going to come in and give you something. I think that's what the coach has to do, because your talent around Kornet, your talent around Timlin, if you put your rotation, if your rotation,
it's not Mike Timlin, it's Xavier.
I'd say Tillman.
Yeah.
I'm saying Tillman.
Oh, I thought you said Timlin.
No, I'm saying Tillman.
Okay.
If your rotations around these two guys are correct, and you have Brown and Tatum on the floor with them, you got to trust and roll with it. I think that's how you save Al, and you should be able to win the series playing that way. And when KP's back, then great. But until then, you got to trust some of these guys, or you're going to see what happened to Al happen again, and you won't have his 3-point shot. And he's not a great rebounder. So when those things are happening, he doesn't give you a ton outside of that, right? So they got to be real careful with those minutes.
So who would you rather see in round 2? Would you rather see the Magic, or would you rather see the Cavs?
For 2 reasons, I'd rather see the Magic. First reason is I like the Magic, so I'm rooting for them. The second reason, there's 3 reasons. The second reason is to see Donovan Mitchell cry and demand a trade. And then the third reason is I think the Celtics win in 5. As good as Orlando is, and I think Pablo is ascending, obviously, and Franz Wagner is also a 20-point scorer, and he gives the Celtics problems with his size. I just don't think they have the experience to really compete in that series. Where Cleveland scares me a little bit. They do. I got to be honest. Garland has always played extremely well against Boston, and like I said, I do believe that series would go 7 against Cleveland.
Yeah, I want to say I'd rather the Cavs, but I'm going to say I'd rather the Magic. The Magic. Here's the thing that concerns me with the Magic. It's just their size, their physicality, and their inexperience. I wonder if things start going south. They already play really close to the edge, and I just worry about a guy going down versus them with a reckless closeout. Kind of a kind of a violent box out things, or fast break foul. Those are the type of things I worry about with the Magic, with how hard they play and their inexperience. Sometimes things aren't going well, that could lead to something you don't want to see. And if things are going well for them, then you're going to have a very exhausting series, whether it's 5 or 6 games. The Cavs, though, I think you brought it up. They have game records, though. They just have more game records than the Magic, whether it's Garland or Mitchell, and then some more experienced shooters. And even LeVert has been a game record for the Celtics, even though he really isn't close to that against the rest of the league at all. And those guys, those guys can be good defense on their own sometimes. And we talk about how important that is in the playoffs. I will say this, though. There's probably not a more uneven player in the league when it comes to the playoffs than Donovan Mitchell. He had that great bubble performance a few years ago when the Jazz lost in the playoffs. But last year against the Knicks, he was pretty dreadful. He's been good in their wins in this series. He's been just okay in their losses. So you don't really ever know which guy's going to show up when the playoffs start. And his other performances for the Jazz really weren't that good at all. I mean, if you look at some of his shooting performances in the playoffs, it's kind of eye-poppingly bad. So, that'll be interesting to see what guy comes in. But I guess if I'm going to lean one way, I would lean the Magic, although neither one of these teams really scare me. I think the Celtics should pretty much cruise to the Eastern Conference Finals. If they swept either team, Mike, I wouldn't be shocked.
Hey, that would be great. I didn't know. I agree with what you're saying, Jim. It's a really good breakdown, obviously, and you bring up a good point about Mitchell. I think even since this injury, he hasn't been the same. Some of his numbers in the series against Orlando haven't been eye-popping, which would be a good sign going into that series for the Celtics. But just around the league, maybe a few minutes, Jim.
Yeah, for sure.
Here in the East, I think let's stay out East.
Boy.
Yeah, Knicks Sixers. What a series. I thought the Knicks had this wrapped up. It was that guard, the backup point guard there for the Knicks came down, hit that jumper. They went up 6. I was like, this game's over.
Yeah, McBride hit a wide open foul on jumper. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I think the Knicks are going to regret that. I have a feeling they're going to be playing the Game 7 at home, and that's a franchise that hasn't seen. It's actually 2 franchises that haven't seen much success. So there's a lot of opportunities here to see one of these teams or both of them, pooping their pants in these big moments, which I think we've kind of seen it from both teams. But yeah, what a great series. Embiid finally showed up a little bit in the fourth quarter, but man, has he been bad at the end of these games? Yeah, what a great series. And even Milwaukee, what Milwaukee's doing, coming off.
Can I stay on the Knicks? Can I stay on the Knicks Sixers? Yeah, just Tyrese Maxey. My God. So he had the biggest blunder in that Game 2 loss where he just fell down and then turned the ball over, and the Knicks were able to recover and hit 3, and the rest is history. They go on and win Game 2 when Philadelphia had that in the bag. So for him to come back in the same place in Madison Square Garden with his team down 6 points and under 30 seconds to go, and he gets that 4-point play, gets Robinson to jump into him. What a smart play. Makes the shot, then makes a free throw after missing 3 in a row. Josh Hart goes 1 or 2, and you could say that's choking it away. Josh Hart's a role player at the line. That's what happens sometimes. Then for him to come down and hit that 32-foot three-pointer, that was just amazing. That kid is the Sixers have something special. The Sixers have something special with that kid. And the Knicks,
do. They do.
The Knicks have been tough too.
What's Embiid's excuse when they blow it? Because he can't blame Ben Simmons. He can't blame Doc Rivers.
He's not himself.
He's not himself, but he's got a history of not showing up in fourth quarters. Year after year after year, this guy has. And Jimmy, he's hurt. I get it. But when we talk about the way we talk about Jason Tatum, he never shows up. He never shows up. When B gets away with it, this guy has never showed up at the end of the games. Going back to the first time he played the Celtics.
He hasn't gotten away with it with me, so I can't.
I'm talking around the league.
Yeah,
I'm talking around the league.
people can say whatever they want. And
I mean, after the game 4 loss, they talked to him. This is a game where he had no rebounds in the fourth quarter once a game. They're talking to him, and he goes, they ask him about that, and his answer is, yeah, we had more New York Knicks fans in the crowd than we had Philadelphia 76ers fans. That says a lot about our crowd and the kind of support we get around here. So what? It's the fans' fault that you're losing now? That guy just has more excuses in the world.
He has said stupid shit throughout his entire career, and he has disappeared. And his style of play has been an inhibitor to him come the playoffs because they're flopping around and drawing fouls. They just don't call like they do during the regular season. And I thought that's really pained him and his past playoff failures. I can't really criticize him for his performance here. He's clearly gutting this thing out. He is clearly not right. If I was a Sixers fan, I would be worried about long-term, the impact this might have, him giving it a go. We've seen it in Boston.
I can criticize him. I'll criticize him.
You can criticize. I'm just telling you, I'm not. I think he's giving it everything he has. I think he's taken some cheap shots that he deserves criticism for. We talk about Bam being dirty. I think what Embiid's done has been quite worse than what Bam's done.
When he stepped on Grant Williams' head?
No, when he took out Mitchell in this series, and then there was another play as well, too. I'm trying to recall it, but it was 2 plays in this series. Which
speaking of, how good has that guy been?
Who?
Mitchell and Hartenstein.
Mitchell Robinson. Oh yeah, they've been really good. The Knicks have been really good. Like those guys without Julius Randle, there is an offensive ceiling, as you brought up a million times, and they just keep coming at you. You got to think if either one of these teams advance, the Pacers has got to be kicking themselves for not getting rid of that series early, because you're going to have 2 exhausted teams.
Let me ask you something.
Exhausted teams.
All right, quick questions, and we're done. Can the Milwaukee Bucks win this series against the Indiana Pacers? Yes or no?
If Dame and Giannis don't come back, no.
All right. Can they extend it to 7 games?
No.
So you don't
if
give
they
a
get
shot
one of the 2 back tonight, then possibly. If they don't, no way.
Yeah. I don't either. I want to give them credit though for that game 5.
Yeah.
I thought they really gutted it out. I thought they were a dog and they were done. And credit to those guys to step up when their star players aren't there, because I was impressed by that performance at home. I really was.
That's also why I think the Pacers' playoff inexperience and this whole thing is going to catch up to them probably next round. I don't think they've had a true introduction to this yet, and I think next round is going to be a little bit shocking for them.
Yeah, you might be right. I know I've been picking them. I'm still going to pick them. I'm going to stay with my pick. But last question, Jim: can the LA Clippers extend this series, or do you think it's over?
I think they can,
but
I think Dallas will win. But I do think they can. I think Dallas is an isolation team. I think the Clippers are an isolation team, and sometimes it's just a matter of who's making shots and who's defending better when you have 2 teams like that. And I just think that the Mavs have better shot makers available to them with Kawhi out. So I guess I'd take the Mavs, but they can absolutely. If Luka struggles or Kyrie struggles, and yeah, I think the Clippers are going to need a big road game once again from Harden and Paul George to have a shot, but they certainly can do it, and I kind of hope they do. I want to see a game 7 between those 2 teams. And my last question, Jim: Minnesota, Denver. That's probably going to be the series everybody's looking forward to in the second round. Even though we'll have some other good ones, obviously, but this is the one, right? So, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like, oh, they got a really great shot. How much of a chance do you give Minnesota in that series? And do you think that series goes 7, or do you think Denver ends it quicker? I think it's going to be a long series, but I think in terms of, I don't know, 3.5, 4.
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
I just think the experience of this matters, and Jokic and Murray are just playing at another level right now.
Well, let me flip that question a different way. If Anthony Edwards played out of his mind for an entire series and Minnesota would win, Would it shock you? I guess I could see him doing that, but I still think the chances are slim.
I could see Anthony Edwards playing out of his mind. Would I be shocked if Minnesota won? I don't know if shock's the right word. What's the one level down from shock? Very, very surprised.
Yeah.
That's probably what I'd be. Yeah, look, there's not that they don't have any chance. I just, the team that I think is going to go down next round is going to be the Thunder. But
I do too. I do too. Yeah. No matter who they play.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Although the Clippers got a lot of losing in them, so you never know. But yeah.
Yeah, they do. And injuries always come into play and all those things.
Yeah. All right. Well, game 1 will be either Sunday or Tuesday. Let's hope for Sunday, because Tuesday night I'm at the Board of Aldermen meeting in Manchester. That would be horrible. So let's hope that it's hope
Sunday,
it's Sunday
we might
night.
be doing something too. So I don't know. Pick your poison.
Oh, I will not show up for that if the Celtics.
Happy
Sorry,
birthday,
Bob.
Celtics are on.
All right, man.
All right, I'll see you.